The much anticipated Heist DLC is here, 6 weeks after launch. The first of 3 monthly DLC packs, part of the City That Never Sleeps Season Pass. This video is going to be a full critique of everything you get for your money, and that means full spoilers. It's also a continuation of my enormous Spider-Man PS4 critique that I released last month, so if you're interested, I'd recommend watching that first, but it's certainly not required. Before we get into the content, let's just grapple with the implications of the Season Pass model. What's important to consider is that the heist is a part of an interconnected story, yet you can buy it individually for $10. So unless you buy the Season Pass, or waste your money buying them all separately, you aren't getting a full story, just a beginning. The compromises don't end there, and we've not even started yet. Because the heist is a direct continuation of the main story, side activities from the base game would conflict with the story of the heist. For example, the Black Cat stakeouts would make no sense if you were halfway into the heist, because you already know her plan. So the heist chooses to be completely removed from the base game. You select it as your current campaign from the DLC menu, which replaces the normal side activities with the heist stuff, all except the backpacks and the landmarks. So you can never get them all at once. You can never get heist active crimes with the huge pool of main game ones. You can't do hideouts either. The city makes itself barren and lifeless in order to accommodate this DLC, and I have no doubt that it'll continue to do this for every DLC yet to come. There is no endgame potential here. As soon as you've 100%ed the content there is, you will switch back to the main story city without a second thought. I feel like that's going to be one of the biggest turnoffs, so I'm getting out of the way now. Moving on from what we don't get, let's talk about the content we do. As a direct continuation of the main story, MJ and Spider-Man are together, and Miles has his powers. MJ tells Spider-Man that there's a robbery going down at an art museum. Classic Spidey stuff, getting you right back into the swing of things. But Insomniac's still a bit behind as it seems. I wonder who these thugs could be. Who do they work for? Oh, thanks, subtitles. After your classic stealth affair, you slip into the museum. Painting still good. But how do I know it's not going to stay that way? Well, if you look around, what do you see? This is a stealth arena. You've got perch points, vents, environmental objects. We know what's going to happen before it does. But that's not the only tell. We bought the game. The following detective work you perform to figure out what's going on lacks intrigue when the DLC literally has a picture of Black Cat on the front. My frustrations weren't alleviated when I was forced to play yet another ridiculously easy circuit minigame. Please, sort it or abort it, Insomniac. Thankfully, when you inevitably have to use this stealth arena as a stealth arena, you start to appreciate it a little more. For the first time, they've created a vent system allowing you to dynamically use vent takedowns. The arena also features girders and multiple levels, which puts it above most of what we've had to put up with from the base game. It's funny then that the game quickly forces you out of stealth to beat up groups of thieves. This is the first of a series of attempts to mix up the standard combat engagement. In this case, by having high-value targets who can't be allowed to reach the exit. It's not difficult to get them on any difficulty, but it grants a little extra tension to the scene. And it's great that Insomniac are trying to surprise us. With the thugs down, Black Cat takes her opportunity to steal the painting. The dialogue here is fantastic, as it is with her throughout the DLC. It makes their much hyped meeting an engaging scene. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think this outfit looks utterly ridiculous. Is it armor? Is it leather? The plated structure on her chest says one, the material texture says something else. But that's just my take. I know a lot of people really enjoyed this outfit. And the voice actor is much more the part, both biting and slightly seductive. Felicia smashes the painting in two, robs the hard drive inside, and takes off. Your next objective is transparent, shall we say. Better call the bomb squad, huh? This joke serves as an introduction to the first of the new active crimes in the heist, bomb disposal. You get out your spider-bot, walk around following markers, and press triangle. Truly gripping stuff. Was this part of the meme? I appreciate that they tried to introduce variety to the active crimes, but the spider-bot doesn't make for engaging or tense gameplay. Come on, Insomniac. They're not done introducing us to side content yet. Your next mission takes you to meet a retiring detective who theorizes that a Black Cat before Felicia was using radioactive isotopes to mark his stolen paintings for when he got out of prison. These become the new collectibles, and yes, it's another Vapid collectathon. Gee, I have to press an entire 2 buttons, huh? But sometimes a pigeon comes and robs you at the last second. You know, I'd never thought I'd be thankful to see pigeons in a Spider-Man game. What I did like was that you get more and more backstory with each one. You learn that the original Black Cat was called Walter Hardy. Hardy, like Felicia Hardy. So Black Cat is a copycat of her dad, but she's improved the trade in every way. Walter got in deep with the Maggio crime family and so got himself caught to protect his daughter. When he tried to escape from the raft, he couldn't make the swim and drowned. Simply knowing more about someone can change the way you understand their words and actions. I don't know if this is legit Black Cat lore, but I appreciate they did this to give her character character, a little more depth. You continue the trend of randomly going from one incident in the city to another by fighting a different Maggio crime family, who brings out a brute with a minigun, a new enemy type, also, inspired by Arkham. You need a truckload of webs to deal with these ones. It's far more effective to wait until you have 2 focus bars and just insta-kill them. They have so much health relative to other enemies that it's actually a better strategy to just not fight them. That's a serious issue, and it applies to normal brutes too. The only strategy you ever use on them is webs, then stick to a building, because fighting them normally takes too long. Now that you can't even do that, the result is no surprise. A shame. The finisher animation is cool at least. I'll tell you what's not cool though. Screwball is back. You'll only know who she is if you did her specific side mission in the base game. She's essentially a batshit crazy Twitch streamer who's decided that playing Fortnite is too efficient for growth. It'd be easier to just hire a bunch of Supermax prison inmates and try to kill Spider-Man on camera. Her antics are pretty funny for about 10 minutes, but after that I'd quite like to photobomb her corpse, with the dab and everything. I also found it pretty interesting that these raft inmates she's using are almost all still wearing the orange jumpsuits. While she's not just here to annoy you, she's the replacement for Taskmaster by forcing you to compete in a series of challenges. There are 2 new types and 1 slight alteration. We'll start with the first and best, EMP. This is a lot like Taskmaster's bomb disposal, but with a few more mechanics. First, you need to get them in the right order, and that doesn't always mean the closest. You have a route guide, but it isn't always efficient, so you need to get creative for the best scores. But you've also got to be attentive and ready to change direction quickly for the photobomb opportunities. On the specified routes, you're challenged to do specific web tunnels, at which point the game will go into slow-mo and you have to press R1 when the meter's in the green for the optimal number of OMGs, which is not a sentence I ever thought I'd say. There's no element of luck to this, so it's purely a test of raw speed. It's an effective and enjoyable challenge. It's the best of the lot, but unfortunately, that's because it's the only one that doesn't make me want to ram my head through a wall. Screwball's second offering is the Gadget challenge. There are 2 ways to earn points. Firstly, use the trip mines, because effortlessly insta-killing is what combat systems are all about. And secondly, use the suspension matrix, because no one would use it otherwise. You'll get the most amount of points if you use the 2 in tandem, but that's not complexity. You just use the matrix, double tap L1, then spam out the trips while looking upwards. If you're lucky, you'll get a couple of double takedowns. This is inconsistent, but you can increase your chances by trying to aim at the center enemies in the pack. Photobombs make a return, but they're completely unexplained. Sometimes you can get away with webbing 1 guy to the area, sometimes you need 2. I don't get why it feels so inconsistent, maybe it's just me. But I hate it anyway because I can't force the AI to come over here. And even if they would follow 9 times out of 10, it ruins the flow of combat. Worse, the points at which you receive more gadgets to spam out seem inconsistent. Sometimes you'll just be able to throw them out continuously, sometimes you'll gain them at a crawl. I understand the entertainment from the visual aspect, but mechanically, this is a joke. I'm thanking my lucky stars that we only got 1 of them. The combat challenge is nothing different. It's like the normal ones, but for Ultimate you need to get kills in these photobomb areas that once again ruin the flow of combat. So they're like the normal ones, but worse. Not a good show. Back to the story. You'll eventually track down Black Cat yet again, and she'll tell you that she's got a son. Hammerhead has the boy, and the only way to get him back is to do as he asks. But more than that, there's a good chance Peter is the father. This is where things get interesting. The idea of Black Cat having a son instantly gives her another dimension. If she's being blackmailed, did she go straight? And for Peter, we can ask how this will interact with his own psyche, and his relationship with MJ. We've got investment now. Through a little more investigation, we find out that Hammerhead's going after 5 data drives to access a pool of criminal assets. He's trying to get rich quick. This leads right into the highlight of the entire DLC, the Black Cat chase. True, it's been done before multiple times, but I think it's a serious staple now, and there's nothing wrong with trying to iterate on it or replicate it. Unfortunately, the first part of the Black Cat chase is garbage. Nicely animated, but it's just a matter of holding R2 and going forward. The second part is a lot better, a fully detailed subway chase. You've got to point launch to keep up the speed, which is very easy to do, but sometimes part of the subway collapses, meaning you've got to time your launch so you go through the gap. It's hard to screw up, but it's something to think about. There's also the electric pillars that force you to go from side to side, so there's a fair amount of button skill required to keep up. Amazingly, the third part, despite being a full-on chase like in Web of Shadows, requires less. The lack of depth in the traversal lets this scene down. Anyone could keep up with Black Cat here, and it's a shame there's no boss fight to top it off. All you have to do is periodically web her up, but because Spider-Man hovers in mid-air when you do so, it ruins the flow of movement. Certainly an enjoyable Black Cat chase, but it could have been so much more. You save Felicia from falling off a building just like before and convince her to stall Hammerhead while you find her son. So how are you going to go about that? Well, we're in for a treat. If you had to pick your favourite aspect of the main story's campaign, what would it be? Set pieces? Boss fights? No. It's the MJ missions, right? Of course. So it's good Insomniac listened to the feedback they got after launch and made sure to include one in the DLC. I remember when the camera started following MJ and I realized we'd get to play as her again. I screamed out, "No, I can't believe they brought it back!" And it was great to see that they didn't try to experiment, go for a different vibe, or change up the gameplay. They went for the classic stealth formula by making sure you have very few options, which makes it streamlined and accessible. I love this section, and I'm really proud of Insomniac for listening. The following pair of missions will each have you team up with Black Cat in their own way. The first one is a bar fight. I thought they'd do an Arkham Knight-like superhero team-up, but that's not what this is. Black Cat will just randomly insta-kill whatever thug she feels like, then return to her perch. This is pretty cool nonetheless, but I think the setting makes it work more than anything else. Black Cat destroying the Mudgier's wine until she finds the one she wants is her entire character in a single scene. Up next is the stealth team-up, and it's pathetic. You can do anything she can, so if doing a stealth takedown yourself is more fun, why would you want her to do it? I don't think you would, but you very well might choose to all the same, because it's easier. You can't screw Black Cat over. There's no risk, there's no uncertainty, so there's no fun. You only have to spam the D-pad to get her stealth takedowns. That's what this is, spamming the D-pad whenever you think an enemy might expose themselves. You'd think that the team-up would allow for double takedowns, right? No. Even if we had the power of 2, it's easier to just spam out a pair of impact webs. Stealth's biggest issue was its lack of depth. This just makes it worse. Speaking of making things worse, after you've dealt with the thugs outside, you rush over to the vault, and what do you find? Nothing. The data drive is gone, and the door is closing. Yes, Black Cat has betrayed you. Spider-Man does the "why are you doing this? You could use your powers for good" routine. Every villain he's met so far could use their powers for good. Strange that it's only Felicia that he makes an exception for. But ignoring that, this is an awful twist. First, it's happened in superhero stories before, the anti-hero that helps the protagonist out until the last second. Of all the twists they could have went with, something cliched was not the right choice. Secondly, and most importantly, it removes character complexity. Being a mother, being tempted by Spider-Man, being selfish but now having to provide for someone else gives her depth, character traits, motivations. This twist removes them all and reduces us back to a base set of character traits and motivations, that she is only out for herself. And then consider the potential it removes from Peter and MJ's story. After Spider-Man's never-ending "why Felicia's?" Bye Felicia, I wonder if I'll be the first to make that joke. Black Cat is dead, and that's where the story ends. A twist right next to a twist. That is unexpected, so I commend it. Here's what I don't like. The cliffhanger means we don't get a satisfying conclusion, and it's not like we just have to watch the next episode or only have to wait a day or a week like in TV. We've got to wait a month, assuming you've bought the season pass at all or are willing to pay another $10. And most of the discussion until then will revolve around whether the writers would do that. Because honestly, would they? Probably not. But even further than that, I think it's obvious she planned on this happening. She smiled as she touches the door. She even ignores Spider-Man's clear warnings that there's a bomb. And I'm pretty sure if you slow it down, you can see a smoke bomb. She wanted Hammerhead to see her go up, and the explosion was a clear picture. So if they bail her out of it, which they will, it's going to be an awful explanation. I could be wrong, and I hope I am. We'll see. So that's the end of that. The story wastes time around the beginning because we already know the answers, then it meanders about trying to introduce all the side stuff, and then finally it gets a little more intriguing with the reveal of Black Cat's son. I'd say it was interesting for about an hour. The ending was surprising, but the first twist made everything worse, and the second twist's not got a good chance of mattering at all. The best parts are the same as they were in the main story. The characters, the voice acting. This is a great rendition of Black Cat, and as usual, Spider-Man and MJ are portrayed excellently. I still can't quite believe that they brought back the MJ segments, and that all but one of the gameplay changes either made no difference or the game worse. No boss fight either. I'm really worried about Turf Wars and Silver Lining. We've covered the story, the collectibles and the challenges, but before we wrap up, I'd like to address the crimes and the suits. The crimes aren't particularly good. In fact, the only one I like is bomb assassination. You climb to the top of a building, do a circuit minigame, and then press triangle near a series of bombs against the clock. But you'd need to go AFK, make a sandwich, maybe get married and send your kids off to college if you wanted to run out of time. So against the clock is really just flavor. I don't hate the new circuit minigames though, because they introduce a new piece, a T-junction. Doesn't add a whole lot, but it's something more to think about. I'll give you something else to think about. Why is every other Magia crime, apart from the god-awful Bomb Squad, a reskin? Same car chases, same armed robberies, same drug deals. Just a different set of character models. It has been confirmed since my previous video that the rumors about crime types disappearing were true. After you've done 5 of a certain faction in any district, they're gone forever. This means that the more you play, the game will continually get worse as variety in combat is reduced. Yet even with this awful decision on Insomniac's part, and as I said at the start, you're still going to play endgame on the main story story rather than the heist due to the larger variety of thug crimes and accessibility of the hideouts. So the heist content has no longevity. Goodbye Maggio, goodbye black cat paintings, and goodbye Screwball. And goodbye motivation to do them too. Let's talk about the suits. The situation is, in a word, tragic. I don't even want to know why Insomniac chose these three. I'm sure it wasn't because they thought they were good, but it doesn't matter. We've got Spider UK. Great. The Resilient suit I can see some people liking, and there's plenty of people who'll be happy to see the Scarlet Spider too. But overall, the selection is dull as dishwater given what the community wanted, and what a massive selection they've got to choose from. I would like to briefly touch on the Raimi suit, because it's become a point of argument in the community recently, and that's no surprise. We've wanted it since launch, we've been teased with it multiple times, yet it's still nowhere to be found. This is for a reason, clearly, but whatever reason that is, it should be absolutely transparent. My theory is that it'll be in DLC 3. Many people will have lost interest by then, but the Raimi suit could change all that. It's a guaranteed moneymaker. We'll have to wait and see, but all this messing around is frustrating, and Insomniac need to be clear with what's going on. With that, my critique of the Heist DLC comes to an end. There was plenty of stuff to love here, but overall, it's not impressive. And it's certainly not worth $10 unless you're a hardcore Spider-Man fan. Since my last critique, we have an extra difficulty mode and New Game Plus. Despite the fact that you get literally nothing for completing New Game Plus, this is excellent for replayability. And it's great to see Insomniac supporting the game so well for free. I hope they continue to do this into the future, and I hope to see you next time when I cover Turf Wars and Silver Lining. You might be interested in checking out my original Spider-Man PS4 critique too. I'll have the link to that and a few recommended channels in the description below. If you've got a couple of bucks to spare to help keep the channel afloat, any donation is extremely appreciated. Thanks for watching.
For those watching, if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.